Ryan S. Clark is the national NHL writer for ESPN. He has been doing a great job talking about the Olympics and everything that's been happening over there. Ryan joins us today. Ryan, first off, thank you so much for coming on and talking a little hockey with us today.
Hey, no problem at all. Thank you so much for having me. And for that nice intro, I might have to put you guys on payroll, but we'll see how it goes.
Oh, man, if you're talking pay, well, I can do way better than that. We'll talk when we're done. The first thing I wanted to ask you about was last week, or it may have been earlier this week. I have no time reference anymore. But you wrote about Laila Edwards and just what it means for her to be on this team. Earlier this week, we saw when USA and Canada played that it was the first time ever that 3 black women were on the ice at the same time in the Olympics. But Laila has just been so great on the ice, off the ice. What was your experience just talking to her, and how cool has it been after having that interview, seeing how much success she's having so far over in Milan?
Well, the thing about that story with Laila Edwards is it's something that we've talked about wanting to do for a while now. It's just a matter of what was sort of the right moment in the Olympics. There's really no bigger moment at all. And so getting the opportunity to go to Cleveland, where I was able to spend a Saturday afternoon with Laila and her family, it was just a lot of fun because you're not only learning about who they are as people, but like why this game, why the success in this game, how has it mattered? And you learn all these different things, but then the cool part of reporting is it's all the phone calls you make afterwards, even until like maybe 12 hours before we publish. Like I was talking to someone who they were on their way to Milan to go watch Laila Edwards play, Team USA as a whole, but especially Laila. And they made the time to talk because that's how many people really care about what she's doing. And when you talk about the impact of like what it means, like it is immense just because like we had never seen a black woman play for Team USA before her. Now we see a black woman playing for Team USA at the Olympics. We could see a black woman be part of a gold medal winning team for Team USA at the Olympics. And there is a pipeline that is coming of more black women who are playing this sport. But when you look at the success that she's had, like this goes kind of part and parcel with what everybody's talked about, where every level she's been able to have an impact in a way that like at her best, she can control games. And that's what we've seen with her and Team USA so far is the ability to control games and control them in a way to where that's why right now they're looking like the gold medal favorite.
Yeah, every time I watch Team USA, it feels like Laila Edwards is constantly on the ice. Like she's like Quinn Hughes or Cale Makar, where when you watch their team, she is literally always out there. But Ryan, in terms of this being the Olympics, right? It feels like the Olympics are where icons are made and you know, superheroes in sports are made. So how important is it to finally have a black superstar at the Olympic Games that not only black people in general, but especially black girls, young black girls in the United States looking to get into hockey can look up to?
Well, I mean, it's massive for a variety of reasons, just because let's look at the impact that we've seen of black women in gymnastics, figure skating, going back to Debbie Thomas, Sierra Bonalay. I mean, we look at, yes, there had been Althea Gibson, but really how the Williams sisters got things going. And you're now seeing more and more where like Coco Gauff is sort of that person carrying the mantle along with Naomi Osaka. And to see it in a sport like hockey, where there's this natural thought that like black people of color as a whole don't really play hockey in numbers like that, to see a black woman, especially from a place like Cleveland, Ohio, because like that's the other thing is like Ohio has a hockey history, but it's not Michigan or Minnesota or Massachusetts or New York. It's not known as a hotbed, but like it does matter there. And so it's all these intersecting points that really help people understand like it can happen everywhere, because there's a young woman we spoke to for this story. Her quote didn't end up making it, but her name is China Taylor, where she plays prep school hockey in Massachusetts. And she's a 6-year-old black girl who is from Louisville, Kentucky. Who's going to go play at Wisconsin. And like she's the sports kid of the year. And that's immense, because who would have thought that 5, 10, 15 years ago? And so to see that and to see that success, it's not only about, okay, it's achievable, but also what else could it do going forward? Like it may not necessarily equate to more players, but it could equate to more fans. And who's to say what leads off from fandom, whether that's people who have a long-standing interest in the game, or maybe they get their daughters playing or their sons playing or whatever. Like it's so hard to measure the impact, because it seems like it's the kind of thing that we may not be able to fully understand until decades later.
One of the things that I think will help, obviously, I'm coming from a South Florida fan standpoint, so it's very profound down here, but winning does a lot to help that along. And the U.S. women look absolutely dynamic at this Olympics. I don't know if I've ever felt this good about the U.S. women's chances at gold in any international tournament that I've seen over the years. They just look downright dominant, Ryan. What's been your take so far in the U.S. women? And I know that they beat Canada 5-0 without MPP, and I know that that's a significant person to not play there. But I don't know. I just feel very bullish about the U.S. right now.
So you're saying winning matters in a place like South Florida. Miami Central High School agrees with that status, as does St. Thomas Aquinas. And American Heritage too. Let's not forget them. We get to about high school football all day. Anyway, hey, I was down there. I was born in that part of the world, but that's not the point. The point is, it's a fascinating discussion when it comes to Team USA and Canada and that game at the moment. Doing radio in Vancouver yesterday, there was this discussion of, are we at a turning point where is the U.S. about to take the lead in what's been this long-standing rivalry where, yes, they've exchanged gold medals, whether it be in the Olympics or the World Championships. But when you think about where things are at with hockey in America, like, it's interesting. Like, we talk about Laila Edwards, of course, but Caroline Hardy, those are two college players that have been among the best going. I mean, you're seeing this young core where it's like, you've got what? You've got Abby Murphy, you've got Hannah Bilka, you've got Joy Dunn. We're waiting for Tessa Janicki, who's been one of the best players in women's college hockey, to find her footing offensively, to where, like, with Team USA, it's nice to have the Alex Carpenters and the Hillary Knights contribute, but you've been able to get a lot from your young core. Whereas if you look at Canada, yes, you're out with arguably one of the greatest players women's hockey's ever seen, but also you have some young players like Sarah Fillier, Sophie Jakes, Julia Gossing, Jennifer Gardner that, like, yes, they're going to be the future of the team, but it's not as many as Team USA has, because Team USA came into this tournament with 13 players that are younger than 25 on the roster. Whereas if with Canada, I believe the number is like 5 or 6. And when you look at that core, Sarah Nurse, Renata Fass, Aaron Ambrose, Andre Davian, Blair Turnbull, Natalie Spooner, Justin Larocque, and Marie-Philippe Poulin, they're all north of 30. And when you think about those numbers, it's interesting because it's a little bit of a chicken or the egg. So if Canada loses, then was age a factor? But if Canada wins, then it's, well, how much did experience play a role in that victory? And, like, that's the funny thing about the Olympics is right now we're thinking about this going, could it be this? When in reality, it could be something totally different.
Yeah, I have a Canadian friend who's very upset in terms of they're not letting the new generation take over enough. She feels like the team has kind of passed its glory days, and they feel like the U.S. has an advantage right now because of their young core and how dynamic they are, and that the U.S. could kind of take over here because these young players are getting the experience that some of these older veterans for Canada are taking away from younger players. But to talk about that young core, I'm going to give you 3 names that have been the standout players of the tournament so far. One of them is Laila Edwards. The other 2 are Abby Murphy and Hannah Bilka in my mind. Pick one of them to really hype up for me and tell me why they have been the most impactful player for the United States.
Abby Murphy.
It's easy to say Laila Edwards, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. She's been fantastic.
Abby Murphy.
We'll tell you what, because someone's saying Abby Murphy, we will do Abby Murphy because, like, listen, it's this reality. Like, she represents a lot of different things in terms of talent, the ability to impact the game, and not only just the ability to impact the game, but knowing, like, while there is her, there are so many other options that may not be able to do exactly what she does, but they can provide sort of like that similar feeling of knowing, like, it just comes in waves with Team USA. And when you think about Canada, for example, because that's what we just talked about, like, right now, what would be the equivalent of that? Like, what would be the equivalent of that kind of player that they have on the roster? Maybe that exists, but it's also something else too, where when we look at these young players, we have to remind ourselves, like, some of them are still in college. Some of them are still going into their first or second year of professional hockey. Like, that's a very, very different dynamic compared to what you see with Canada's players, where they have been at this and have gone through these things a little bit differently. And so the fact that you can even ask this question and you name those 3, and there are others that you could add, like Carolyn Harvey, to that conversation, it really just does speak to how, if you're the U.S., you look, Aaron Frankel's another one. Like, it
Alex Carpenter
really does speak to how, again, just more and more and more and more, but, like, it really speaks to how with Team USA and how young it is, how it looks like you're going into a window that could be really, really prominent for them, whether it be with the Olympics or the World Championships. And if you're Canada, look, you have talent, but at the same time, you might have to use this Olympics to kind of figure out where are you going next, because it is an inflection point, whether you win gold or you don't, because
what's happening with the U.S. isn't going away, and not being funny, but if you look at what Czechia has done in the last few years at the World Championships and what they could still do at this Olympics, that's a nation that's only getting stronger and stronger.
I want to move to the men's tournament, but before I do, real quick, 15 words or less, U.S. or Canada, who wins the gold?
Let's go with Team USA for now, for all the reasons we've mentioned, with the idea that Canada could still make it work because it has the experience.
Perfect answer. I think that might have been 15 words or less. That was beautiful.
Well, Ryan's a pro.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, you wrote today about maybe the best teenage hockey player in the world right now, and that's Macklin Celebrini. He looked great for Team Canada in their opening win. He's looked great everywhere he's gone. We talked earlier about how he scored a goal in his first game at 5 different levels as a young adult hockey player, which is pretty remarkable. It's scary how good he is as a teenager, considering he's only going to keep getting better for the next several years. But how much respect is he gaining, not just among hockey fans in general, but among these elite hockey teammates that he's playing with at the Olympics right now?
Everybody has something great to say about Macklin Celebrini. And let's start with Sidney Crosby. Got a chance to speak with him about it for that story, but just sitting down and talking to him, he's like, look, this is someone that I'd heard about for quite some time. And then he's like, you see him in the way he operates. And Crosby it was fascinating because Ryan Warsofsky, the head coach of the San Jose Sharks, has said, I get why people talk about the points, but we really need to be talking about how good he is defensively. And so you asked Crosby about that, and Crosby just talked about how good he is down low and the strength and just like the way Crosby spoke, it was like, no, this guy's for real. Whereas if you go to the conversation of Nathan MacKinnon, and Nathan MacKinnon has been pretty good about talking about other star players, but it's funny because covering him in Colorado, the way he talks about Cale Makar, you would think that he carried Cale for 9 months in his womb. And he talks about Macklin Celebrini the exact same way, where he's just like, I get why you're asking me what advice could I give him. I don't think he needs any advice. He knows what he is doing. It's almost that joke of he knows a lot about cameras for people who get that. If they don't, I can't help you about Kanye and Lady Gaga. That's been out there for forever. But the point is, he has been left very impressed by Macklin Celebrini because this is what it comes back to for people. It's these 3 things. The first is he works just as hard on defense as he does on offense. The second thing is he already has come into the league with a built body. He had those physical features in college. You saw it last year in San Jose. He's put in the work. The other thing, and this is the third and maybe the most important, is it's that willingness to learn and get better. It's one of those, yes, he's his own player, but it's like he talked about for that story. He watched Crosby, he watched McKinnon, he watched Ryan O'Reilly. Those are 3 centers. 2 of which are going to get into the Hall of Fame. Ryan O'Reilly is going to make an interesting case, but they've been 3 of the best centers in the league for a while, and it's learning from them, but it's also learning just because this is what works for them, it may not work for me, but you find the version of that works for you. And when you're hearing someone at 18, 19 years old understand that to the point they can be trusted in every sequence of the game, that is a massive step forward toward becoming a superstar. Because the other thing, and we get into this with the story, is yes, he is on pace for 121 points. That would break Joe Thornton's single season record by 7 points. But let's say he finishes with 121 points as a 19-year-old. Only Wayne Gretzky had a better age 19 season. He has been that good. And that is another reason people respect him, because because it's the thing. It's you see the talent, but to see the talent be so strong that in a year we've gone from, okay, the San Jose Sharks are building to, could the San Jose Sharks make the playoffs? That's going to get attention, but there's so much about Macklin Celebrini that makes other star players throughout the league respect what he's done, because in some ways we have seen this before, but in other ways we necessarily haven't. And that's what's going to make the rest of the season more compelling, because if he can get the Sharks into the playoffs and break Joe Thornton's record, and let's say finish with 121, which is more than what Crosby had in his age 19 season, it's going to be an interesting discussion about just how high his ceiling can be going forward.
Ryan, before we let you go, I want to ask you a similar question what Ethan asked you about the women. A little slightly different, though, because I'd say in the men, we know that there's the big 4, the 4 nations, yada, yada, yada. Canada and UNES, we all think they're going to be in the gold medal game. Who outside of the big 4, and we know Finland's a little battered without Barkov, but who outside the big 4 do you think has the best shot at a medal in the men's tournament?
It's easy to say Sweden just because the NHL talent, Sweden's consistency, the fact they have a lot of forwards with two-way ability, but the team that you just keep looking at and thinking, don't sleep on them is Switzerland. Switzerland has looked good in the last couple of men's world championships with medal finishes. Like Switzerland has got dudes. So you think about what Switzerland was the last time you had NHL players at the Olympics in 2014. You had Robin Yossi and Niederreiter. Like they were good, but they're not the players that they are now. Whereas if now this year's group has 10 players, and yes, Yossi and Niedermeyer are part of that, but they didn't have a Nico Hischier. They didn't have a Kevin Fiala or a Timo Meyer, or JJ Moser. Like these are players that are playing in top 6, top 9, top 4 sort of roles for very good teams. Like the Tampa Bay Lightning threw a ton of money at JJ Moser because they understand how good he is. And like when you look at what Switzerland can do in this tournament, along with the experience they have with goalies like Giannoni, like you just sort of look at them and wonder, like, is this the team that people may be sleeping on? Because like they've had other guys who played in the NHL before, like a Andrighetto or a Kubalik or someone like that, but the way that not Kubalik, excuse me, Andrighetto, Kubalik, of course, Czechia, sorry, but point being is like when he plays in Switzerland, that's it. But when you look at what Switzerland has, like that is a team that, again, do not be shocked if they are in a medal game or if not on the podium outright.
Ryan S. Clark is the national NHL writer for ESPN. He was kind enough to take some time out of his busy day and share with us his knowledge on hockey in the Olympics. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today, and we will be reading your work as you continue to cover the Olympic Games. Thank you.
Exactly. Thanks for having me.